My name is Lillian Roarke. I'm 52 years old, and until that morning, my kids thought I was just a part-time math tutor who couldn't keep up with real tech anymore. They said things like, "You're great with high schoolers, Mom," and "It's cute how you still do your little coding stuff." They didn't ask. They didn't care to ask. That morning, I stood in the back of a glass-walled briefing room inside the Goddard Space Flight Center. I wore a plain black turtleneck, no badge, no fanfare. Just an old laptop in my bag and 32 lines of code in my head that had once predicted orbital drift with an accuracy margin less than 0.03%. That day, the model had failed. Their model. The one they built on top of a patchwork system no one understood fully anymore. The team had hit a wall. They were missing launch windows, misaligning satellite schedules. Billions of dollars. Weeks of panicked recalibration. I was there to fix it. The room buzzed with quiet tension. A NASA administrator stood at the head of the table. Her voice was tight. "We need a clean injection path in under 36 hours. Dr. Mandel, you said there was someone who might help." He turned and pointed toward me. "Lillian Roarke," he said. "You built the prototype in '07, before they made it proprietary. Can you fix it?" I nodded. My son, who was seated at the back as part of his internship cohort, turned to look. His mouth opened, then closed again. Recognition flickered like a bad signal. "Mom," he whispered. "Yes," I said. "Let me see the error logs." And just like that, the woman they once called technologically outdated stepped to the head of the room, past the shocked interns, past the engineers, past every condescending voice that once said I was done. She took back the thing they built on top of my work. But before I tell you what happened that day, let me take you back. Because if you've ever been sidelined, told you were too old, too slow, too far behind, and you still kept learning, still kept going in silence, this might be your story too. I was 33 when my career was quietly erased. Not with a firing. Not even with malice. Just with one reorg and an NDA. I had been working at a private research contractor just outside of DC, subcontracted by NASA and DARPA-like. My specialty was data filtration models for noisy inputs, specifically time series anomaly detection under compression. That meant I could find the one bad number hiding in a billion good ones. My work helped satellites predict real-time object drift. It was math, but it was beautiful math. I didn't have a PhD. I didn't have the elite labs. But I had ideas. And in 2007, one of those ideas became a pilot model that quietly got absorbed into a larger system. They never credited me. A few months later, the company restructured. My role was duplicated. My contract ended. At the same time, my husband filed for divorce. He said I was too obsessed with numbers. Too cerebral. Not present. He took our shared savings and moved in with someone from his office. I took our 2 kids and moved into a 2-bedroom rental in Frederick, Maryland. I didn't fight it. I couldn't. I was exhausted. For the next 10 years, I did what I had to. I worked as a tutor. Sometimes a substitute teacher. I taught algebra to kids who rolled their eyes and pre-calc to students who barely looked up from their phones. I said yes to every gig. I smiled at every parent-teacher conference. I baked brownies for fundraisers. My daughter once said, "You're the best, Mom. I know you had a cool job once, but you're exactly where you're supposed to be now." I smiled. I said thank you. What I didn't say was that every night after they went to bed, I logged into a remote machine I built myself, ran code on open-source climate models, reverse-engineered data structures from published research, and retrained myself in every new programming language that had evolved since the day I was cut out.
Python, R, Julia,
TensorFlow. I learned them all. Quietly. Alone. Not for revenge. For readiness. Because I knew one day the silence would crack. Not out of luck, but because truth has gravity. And code doesn't forget who wrote it first. By the time I was 45, both my kids had outgrown me. Not in the cruel, dramatic way. Just in the slow drift of time. My son, Caleb, got a partial scholarship to study aerospace engineering at Georgia Tech. My daughter, Elise, enrolled in a graphic design program and took a marketing internship in Denver. I told them I was proud. Meant it too. But when they called from college, it was always about them. Their deadlines, their heartbreaks, their unpaid internships. I stayed quiet about the freelance contracts I was ghostwriting under aliases. About the nights I cried when I couldn't afford both the heating bill and the server fees for the model I was quietly building from scratch. The irony was, they thought I was fragile. Just take it easy, Mom. You've worked hard enough. I had, yes, but not in the way they meant. They thought I had given up. I never did. I just stopped telling anyone how hard I was still working. The model I built was called Remap, Recursive Estimation for Motion Amidst Perturbations. It wasn't elegant, not at first, but it worked. I fed it orbital telemetry data, one thread at a time, teaching it to anticipate chaos. Not just smooth prediction curves, but anomalies. The sharp turns. The bad math no one wanted to admit. I did it in pieces. Between grading assignments. Between mopping floors as a night custodian for extra cash. Between moments of quiet where no one could see me. I logged patterns. Studied white papers. I built something no one had the patience for anymore. A system that didn't just work, it understood failure. Then, 2 years ago, something strange happened. I published a small GitHub repo. Just a basic outline of Remap structure. Nothing that would breach my old NDA. Nothing dangerous. I posted it anonymously, under an old username I hadn't touched in years. 3 weeks later, it was starred 147 times. Forked 38. A NASA-linked researcher commented, "This baseline framework mimics an old prototype that outperformed our current training set in 2013. Is this a clone?" I didn't reply, but I took a screenshot. 6 months later, Caleb called. "Hey, Mom," he said. "You know that orbital model I told you about? The one my team's working on? It's kind of broken." I played dumb. "What's wrong with it?" "I don't know. I think the foundation was built off a scrapped model years ago. No one understands the math anymore. We're trying to patch it, but it keeps spinning off." My throat went tight. I wanted to tell him that the broken foundation? That was my work, stripped down, renamed, and rebuilt by people who didn't understand its architecture. I wanted to say, I could fix it in 4 lines of code. But I didn't. Because back then, I still thought I had to earn the right to speak. I didn't realize yet that I already had. It wasn't until last winter that everything shifted. I got a call from Dr. Aaron Mandel, a name I hadn't heard in over a decade. He used to be a junior research analyst at my old firm. A soft-spoken numbers guy who once asked me how I caught outliers in satellite noise better than the machines did. He was now the senior systems advisor at Goddard. "Lillian," he said, "I need a favor. We're hitting a ceiling with the Prometheus system. Our best minds can't fix it." I said nothing. Then he added, "I ran some of the original code through historical repositories. I know it's yours. I know they took it." I still didn't speak. Then he said something that changed everything. "I didn't come to you as a courtesy. I came to you because you're the only person I know who can fix this." I said yes. Not for credit. Not for them. For the math. For the version of myself I buried under years of pretending I wasn't capable anymore. When I walked into the building that day, I didn't have a badge. I didn't have clearance. I didn't even have the updated documentation. But I had the blueprint, the one they lost when they cut me out. They walked me through a malfunctioning dashboard. Real-time telemetry feeds spinning off into red zones. Predictive failures every 3 hours. Entire satellite rotations slightly out of sync. They'd thrown everything at it. Machine learning. Neural nets.
Ensemble forecasting.
But none of it worked.
Why?
Because they'd forgotten the one thing I never did. Data is only as honest as the hands that shape it. And my hands had never stopped building. The lab was colder than I remembered. High ceilings. Too much glass. That particular kind of institutional brightness that always made people feel small. I sat alone at a terminal in the back, sleeves pushed up, keyboard half broken, coffee untouched. For 4 hours, no one spoke to me. They watched. They whispered. I could feel the curiosity. A 50-something woman, plain blouse, old ThinkPad, typing in silence while their advanced models hiccuped like toddlers. I didn't have the degree. I didn't have the prestige. But the thing they forgot was I had the language. The system I'd built years ago hadn't been fancy. It was precise. It understood failure margins better than anyone in the room. I didn't predict perfection. I predicted chaos. And I told the system how to survive it. By 2:17 p.m., I'd traced the root flaw. By 3:09 p.m., I'd rewritten the stabilizing matrix. By 3:34 p.m., their model ran clean for the first time in 16 weeks. The screen went quiet.
No alerts.
No red lines. Just green. All systems aligned. Then I heard it. Wait, that's it. I turned. Caleb, my son, standing in the back of the room in his ID badge and pressed khakis. Face pale. Eyes full of 100 unspoken thoughts. Mom, he said again. Louder this time. I stood slowly. He crossed the room. I don't understand. How do you know this system? This model? I paused. Because I built it. He blinked. What? Not this version, I said. Not the one they patched and renamed and half understood. The bones of it. The original logic. It came from me. He stared. Dr. Mandel stepped in. She's telling the truth. The foundational logic matches her prototype. We ran the traces. It was never attributed, but it's her math. Her fingerprints are all over it. Caleb's voice dropped. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because you never asked, I said gently. You thought I couldn't keep up. You told me to stop trying to be something I wasn't anymore. I didn't mean he stopped. I didn't make him finish. It's okay, I said. I let you believe it. Because maybe part of me believed it too. He looked around the room, at the engineers, the administrators, the silent monitors now glowing green, and then back at me. I'm sorry, he said, barely above a whisper. Dr. Mandel broke the silence. She just saved your entire system. We're calling this stable. Her adjustments will be submitted to mission ops by morning. A murmur went through the room. One of the analysts stepped forward. Can we see your notes? I nodded, slid a folder across the table. Handwritten.
Clean.
Annotated in margins with pencil. I saw one of them glance at the timestamp. The handwriting was dated 5 years ago. They looked up at me. You've had this model ready for years? Yes, I said. No one wanted it. No one believed it. But you could have published. I did. Quietly. Anonymously. But it was more important that the math lived than that my name did. Caleb sat down slowly beside me. You were always working, weren't you? All those nights. The screen glow under your door. I nodded. He looked away, ashamed. I thought you'd given up, he said. I know. A long silence stretched between us. Then he asked, what are you going to do now? It was a good question. One I hadn't dared ask myself in a decade. Before I could answer, the door opened. A tall woman in a suit stepped in. Silver hair. Sharp eyes. She introduced herself as the Deputy Director of Systems Oversight. She looked straight at me. We'd like to bring you on as a consultant, she said. Part-time. Your work fills a blind spot we didn't realize we had. I smiled. Small. Quiet. The kind that grows from a buried seed finally reaching sunlight. Thank you, I said. But I'll need to check my tutoring schedule. They laughed. Not unkindly. Just surprised. And just like that, the woman they thought was outdated, obsolete, invisible, rewrote their future in 32 lines of code and a decade of silence. 2 weeks later, I was back at my kitchen table. Same chipped mug. Same creaky chair. But everything had changed. The kids called more often. Not out of guilt, but curiosity. They asked about things now. Models, patterns, why code sometimes needs silence to breathe. I didn't give lectures. I just answered. Patiently. Softly. Like someone who remembered what it felt like to be overlooked. NASA sent the contract. Nothing flashy. A fixed-term consulting arrangement. Remote access to a secured repository. A small team to advise. My rate was modest, but the respect was loud. I didn't tell many people. Not because I was hiding, but because I didn't need to prove anything anymore. A week after my first assignment, I received a padded envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a printout, a 2008 internal memo from my old firm. Redacted heavily, but one line still visible. Source logic developed by Roarke under Phase 2. Retain derivative rights. Omit authorship. I stared at the sentence for a long time. Then I folded it carefully and tucked it between the pages of my notebook, beside the very first remap sketch I ever made. Pencil. Spiral bound. A smudge of coffee in the corner. I didn't feel anger. Not anymore. Just clarity. They had erased my name, but not my work. And in the end, the work had brought me back. I started teaching again. But this time it wasn't just high schoolers. It was women in their 40s, 50s, brilliant minds who had been told they were too late.
We met overzoom.
Then in person. We shared resources, built tools. We called ourselves the Quiet Stack. It grew. Quietly. Organically. And one day, Elise, my daughter, joined one of the calls. She didn't announce herself. Just logged in, camera off, username Designs. I let her listen. At the end of the session, she unmuted.
Hi, Mom, she said.
The room froze. I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to say, I get it now. I didn't cry. Not until after the session ended. A month later, she sent me a framed poster, a minimalist diagram of Remap's architecture with a tagline. Survives chaos. Predicts the quiet. It hangs above my desk now.
Caleb visits sometimes.
Not for help, just to talk. He's quieter these days. More careful with his words. Once, after dinner, he asked if I resented them. Him and Elise. I thought about it. No, I said. You believed what the world told you. I just wish you'd asked more questions. He nodded. Do you think I could ever build something like you did? He asked. I smiled. Only if you stop needing credit for it.
He laughed.
A real one. The kind I hadn't heard since he was a boy. NASA doesn't need me every day. But they need me. And that's enough. I still bake. Still tutor. Still buy my coffee with exact change. But when I log into that terminal and see my work keeping billion-dollar missions stable in low Earth orbit, I don't feel vindicated. I feel found. There are no awards for women like me.
No profiles.
No TED Talks. Just the slow, steady click of keys under tired fingers, building something no one else saw coming. I don't need applause. I have clarity. And in the quiet hum of the systems I once built alone, I hear it now. The soft echo of a world that finally remembered my name.